years of enslavement of people of color, right? 200 of those years under American government, right? 200 years. So there's 400 years, multiple generations of people that were enslaved, that were thought to be 2/3 of a person, etc., right? Then we have post-slavery, emancipation. We have 100 years of Jim Crow legal segregation, right? Still not equal, separate but equal, all of that stuff, right? So we're looking at maybe 60 years of relative freedom for people of color in this country. Out of, from the time they landed on Plymouth Rock, 60 years, not even 20% of the time. Really only a couple of generations outside of that. So we can't ignore that. Ignoring it puts us in a position of when our child is faced with something on the playground, of not being willing or able to explain where it comes from. And sometimes that's all we need to do. Why do people say these things? Why do some people believe this about a particular group? We have to be able to explain it. And one of the ways that we can explain it is by taking a look at our history. Now, some people say, or feel, really weird about that because it kind of infringes on the patriotism, right? We don't want to think of our country that way because we're better than that, right? But the truth is, those things don't have to be exclusive, right? We don't necessarily have to keep those things. And we can know that and love our country, but still recognize that there was some flaws in the way that it was established, right? We can say that and be okay and move on. So that's one piece of it, historically, the historical residue. Then there's another piece. We live in a 24-hour access age, right? Social media and the internet means that your child, no matter how protective you may be, will be exposed to things that you may not realize, right? Even if you say no screen time, no social media accounts, they're gonna go to youth group, or they're gonna go to school, or they're gonna go to swim team with someone who has access to social media, and they're gonna be talking about what's on the news. So we can't as easily shelter our children as much as we would want, right? I remember in the 90s when the Rodney King beating happened, and then the LA uprising and riots happened, and my mom had the conversation. She had the conversation with me about what was happening as a black mother to a black child. But then guess what she got to do? Click, turn off the television. The whole thing is educate yourself. Okay, so it is, and this is maybe a little controversial to say, it is not the responsibility of a marginalized group or a group that has been sort of on the poor end of receiving end of culture to educate the dominant culture. It's not the job. So we have this thing called Google, and so you can Google anything. You can learn about African American culture and Asian culture and Native American and kind of understand, what does Black Lives Matter really mean? Like I feel some kind of way about it when I hear it, because I really think all lives matter, but I want to understand, why is this so important? And really get some information, not media, not what the media is trying to tell me, because that can be a little skewed. Let me just kind of understand. Maybe I'll just talk to somebody at church. I'm going to ask them, what does that mean? Like, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it, right? Just educate yourself. And that way, when your child comes home, your white child with blonde hair, and says, Black Lives Matter! And you're like, okay. Well, my friend, her mommy had it on her shirt when she came to pick her up, and this actually happens to me. Yeah. Because I had the shirt and white child, and I had to have a conversation with the teacher and all that kind of stuff. Because, But I mean, you can feel comfortable saying, well, honey, there is a group of individuals who feel, and explain it at age-appropriate levels, of course, right? You can do that and just release yourself from the anxiety of it. Because it doesn't have to be, as believers. Because we love without condition, right? We're authentic. We're real about what we know and what we don't know, and we educate ourselves, right? And we're fearless. We lean into the conversation. We engage it, even when it makes us feel weird. And even if we know that we think some things that probably are not sensitive to other groups, because sometimes we do, black, white, whatever, we think things about other groups that are not necessarily true, but it's our experience. Our lived experience is valid, right? My friend was assaulted by a black man. So yes, I'm crossing the street when I see a black man come toward me because I'm scared. And I know that's wrong because not every black man is a mugger. I know it's wrong, but I can't help how I feel. And I gotta be okay with how I feel, but also do what I need to do to change my thinking. Vice versa. I know that every white person is not a racist, but my experience has been on the job that they treat me differently, and I don't get the jobs, and I don't get the money. And so, no, I don't want to go to that white church because I'm afraid it's going to be exactly the same way. Microaggression, touching my hair. But I gotta overcome that because not every white person is a racist. So these are the things that we have to be okay with talking about, especially within the body. Because as believers, as the body who understands that God has made us all in his image, we have the power, above and beyond anything else, to break the strongholds of racism and sin and everything else that we see in this world.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
So now, because time is really, really